Nobody told you there was a second job inside your job. You showed up, did the work, followed the rules, the visible ones anyway. And somehow, people who work less than you, know less than you, and contribute less than you are making decisions that affect your life. That's not incompetence at the top. That's a different rule book being followed, and you've been playing without it. Stay with me, because what I'm about to explain is going to make your entire career suddenly make sense, and it's going to be deeply uncomfortable. And if nobody in your life is telling you this stuff, that's exactly why this channel exists. Hit subscribe. Joe versus the system drops the rule book they never handed you. You are a good employee. You know this. Your manager knows this. Your colleagues know this, which is precisely why they send you things at 4:47 p.m. on a Friday. You follow process. You hit deadlines. You don't cause drama. You don't play games. You've actually said out loud, with your whole chest, I just let my work speak for itself. That sentence, that one sentence, has quietly ended more careers than any single mistake ever could. Because while you were letting your work speak for itself, someone else was in a meeting you weren't invited to, a meeting that technically wasn't even a meeting, having a conversation that determined your next 2 years. Your work was speaking. Nobody was listening. They were all in that meeting. And here's what nobody prepares you for when you join a company. The organizational chart is a lie. Not a malicious lie, just a deeply optimistic piece of graphic design that has almost nothing to do with how power actually moves inside a building. The chart says your manager reports to the director, who reports to the VP. Reality says 3 people in this company can get anything done, and none of them have impressive titles. They just have relationships, information, and the quiet confidence of someone who has never once said, I'll loop in the relevant stakeholders. You've been reading the map. The map is decorative. Here's the rule nobody tells you on day one. Office politics is not optional. I know, you hate that. You came here to work, not to network. You're not interested in the games. You're not that kind of person. You have integrity. Wonderful. Integrity doesn't get you budget approval. The uncomfortable truth is this. Every organization runs on 2 systems simultaneously. The official system, job descriptions, performance metrics, org charts, HR policies, and the unofficial system, which is the one that actually determines who gets opportunities, who gets protected, and who gets quietly managed out while everyone acts surprised. The official system is what they show you during onboarding. The unofficial system is what you spend years accidentally learning through painful experience. And the cruelest part? The people who design the unofficial system will look you in the eye and tell you it doesn't exist. We're a meritocracy here. Of course you are, Kevin. That's exactly what someone at the top of a non-meritocracy would say. Let's talk about how it actually works. Every organization has a currency, and it is not performance. Performance is the entry fee, the minimum requirement just to stay in the game. The actual currency is something far less measurable and far more powerful. It's trust, visibility, affiliation. Who trusts you? Who knows you exist? Whose team you are perceived to be on? These 3 things determine almost everything. What projects you get, what rooms you're invited into, what happens to your name when it comes up in conversations you're not in. And your name does come up in conversations you're not in. Constantly. The question is what follows it. Is it, oh, she's excellent, we should get her involved? Or is it, yeah, he's great, very reliable, which is corporate for, he will stay exactly where he is, and we are very comfortable with that. Now here's the psychological architecture underneath all of this. Humans, including the ones with VP titles and very confident handshakes, make decisions based on familiarity and narrative, not data. They promote people they are comfortable with. They protect people they feel connected to. They reward people whose story they can already picture at the next level. This is not cynicism. This is neuroscience. The brain does not evaluate people objectively. It evaluates people through the lens of existing relationships, which means the most important career asset you have is not your skill set. It is how you exist in the minds of people who make decisions. And if you've been heads down executing, you exist in exactly one person's mind, your direct managers. And as we established in a previous video you hopefully watched, your direct manager's incentives are not aligned with your advancement. So you've placed your entire career in the hands of one person whose professional interests are best served by you staying exactly where you are. Bold strategy. Truly. Here's what happens when you opt out of the unofficial system. Not immediately. That's the cruel part. The consequences are slow. They don't announce themselves. There's no moment where someone sits you down and says, unfortunately, you refuse to play the game, and we're now going to quietly sideline you. A project comes up, a visible one, a strategic one that would have put you in front of senior leadership. Someone else gets it, Someone with fewer qualifications but more relationships. You're slightly confused, but you move on. A promotion cycle happens. You don't get the role. You get feedback that's technically positive but structurally useless. Keep doing what you're doing, which means we have no plans for you, but we don't want to lose you either. A reorganization happens. Teams shift. And somehow you end up reporting to someone junior to the person you were just reporting to. Nobody explains why. There's nothing to explain. You just drifted to the edges of the power map without anyone making a deliberate decision to put you there. This is career stagnation, not dramatic, not visible, just drift. And the most dangerous thing about drift is that it feels like stability. You're still employed, still paid, still technically doing fine. Fine is the waiting room for irrelevant. By the time you realize what happened, 3 to 5 years have passed. The people who were at your level when you started are now 2 levels above you. Not because they were better, because they understood a game you refused to acknowledge was being played. Let's go one level deeper. Office politics is not fundamentally about manipulation or backstabbing. That's the version people use to justify not engaging with it. The version that lets you feel morally superior from a position of professional stagnation. At its core, office politics is about information and relationships. Who has information? Real information, not the stuff in the company newsletter about where the organization is going, what problems matter to leadership, what decisions are being made before they're announced, and who has relationships, real ones, not LinkedIn connections, with people who can open doors, advocate in rooms, and place your name in the right sentence at the right moment. Information and relationships. That's it. That's the whole game. The people who are good at office politics aren't necessarily smarter than you. They're not more talented, they're not more ethical or less ethical. They are simply better informed and better connected. They know things earlier, they know people more deeply. And those two advantages compound over time in ways that pure performance simply cannot match. Here's the insight that most people miss entirely. Politics is not the opposite of work. It is the infrastructure through which work gets resourced, recognized, and rewarded. You can build the best thing in the building. But if you built it in a room nobody visits, with no relationship to the people who control the budget, and no narrative connecting your work to what leadership actually cares about, it doesn't matter. It simply does not matter. Not because the work isn't good, but because good work without political infrastructure is just a very impressive tree falling in an empty forest. Here's the reframe you need. You've been treating office politics like it's something that happens to naive people, something that the smart, principled, high integrity professionals rise above. But avoiding office politics doesn't mean you're not in it. It means you're losing it passively, because the system doesn't pause while you refuse to engage. It keeps running. Alliances keep forming. Narratives keep being written. Decisions keep getting made. And your absence from that process is not neutral. It is a position. It's just a losing one. You have been making a choice every day without realizing it was a choice. The choice to not build relationships above your immediate chain. The choice to not understand what leadership actually cares about. The choice to not make your work visible to people who can act on it. The choice to let other people define your narrative by default, and then wonder why the definition doesn't match how you see yourself. You didn't avoid the game, you just handed your turn to someone else. Every single day. For years. And the really uncomfortable part? You were proud of it. So what actually changes things? Not becoming someone you're not? Not pretending to enjoy small talk about weekend plans with the CFO? Not turning into the person who sends just circling back emails with disturbingly high energy? The shift is smaller and more structural than that. It starts with information. Start understanding what the organization actually cares about at the level above yours. Not what your manager says matters, what the people making resource decisions are visibly paying attention to. Those are different things. Find the gap. Work in it. Then relationships, not networking, which is transactional and hollow, but genuine professional curiosity about people above and across from you. What problems are they solving? What would make their professional life easier? Not because you're being strategic, but because that curiosity naturally places you in the flow of information and opportunity. And finally, narrative. You need a story about yourself that travels without you. A one-sentence version of who you are and where you're going that other people can repeat accurately in rooms you're not in. If you don't write that sentence, the organization will write one for you. You probably won't like it. It'll be accurate, just not aspirational. If this is landing for you, if you're sitting there doing the math on the last few years, subscribe to Joe vs. System, because this is one video. There's a whole series of things they never told you, and I'm not done yet. Here's the truth you're going to sit with after this. You didn't fail at office politics. You opted out of it with full confidence and called it integrity. And while you were being principled and heads down and letting your work speak for itself, the unofficial system kept running, kept rewarding the people inside it, and kept quietly making you irrelevant in ways too slow to feel like an emergency. The rules of office politics aren't secret because they're shameful. They're secret because the people who know them benefit from you not knowing them. Every year you spend confused about why results aren't translating into advancement is a year someone else spends using the system you refuse to learn. The system is not going to change. It has never changed. Every organization in human history has had an official structure and an unofficial one. That's not corruption. That's just people. The question isn't whether you're willing to play. You're already playing. The question is whether you're going to keep playing blind or finally read the rule book that nobody handed you, that's been sitting there the entire time, disguised as everything you dismissed as just politics. The rules were always there. You just decided they didn't apply to you. They did. They do. They always will.